More than a quarter of a century has passed since Slipknot's eponymous album debuted via Roadrunner Records, but the Iowan metal monster continues to carve out its legacy as a major player and instigator in the bizarre history of heavy metal music. Before hitting the big time, Slipknot built up a reputation as a must-see force of nature in the 90s. Their fans, known as the Maggots, traveled from far and wide to witness the hype for themselves and to see if the rumors were true. One of the most notable stories from this era is how percussionist Sean "Clown" Cran used to lug around a jar containing a dead crow. But what could be the reason Slipknot kept a dead crow in a jar in the first place? According to DJ Sid Wilson's comments to Spin, it's so they could experience, quote, what death smelled like. As Wilson explained, the bandmates would open the jar and take a whiff of the decaying animal corpse inside in an effort to put themselves in that dark place. While that sounds disgusting enough as it isn't the most eyebrow-raising incident involving the poor crow, as Wilson revealed. He said, but the OG Maggots, before we made it big, they were nuts. They were saying, let us smell it. So we put the jar down there and they started pulling out this stuff and eating it. The kids were sicker than we were. They always had something to prove. Years later, Cran admitted that he had no desire to carry around a dead crow or smell it now.
It looks like it's gonna storm like a mother. Welcome to Iowa.
Anyone who listens to Slipknot's sophomore album, Iowa, instantly feels how the music ratchets up a level in terms of pure intensity. There's a ferociousness and anger to every track that surpasses their 1999 eponymous album, which already overflowed with uncaged rage and unbridled aggression. In the years after its release, the band revealed they weren't in a good place while recording Iowa, and their unrestrained emotion and personal turmoil come out in the music and lyrics. Speaking to Revolver, the various people involved in the making of Iowa discussed how it was an album that almost destroyed the band, figuratively and literally. Corey Taylor explained that the process of making Slipknot's self-titled debut record felt cathartic to him as he freed himself of the anger inside of him, but the Iowa experience was just wrath for its own sake. He said, I just remember a lot of darkness, a lot of anger. I was cutting myself recording songs in the studio. I was bleeding everywhere. I just wanted something. I didn't care what it was. Much like his bandmates stated, Taylor agreed that Iowa came at a cost, but it enabled them to create, quote, a dark, brutal, amazing album out of it. Due to Slipknot's sinister appearance and the dark nature of their lyrics, they are a parent group's worst nightmares all wrapped into one. In 2003, these committees received further ammunition for their cause after Slipknot's music became embroiled in a disturbing crime. According to Chart Attack's reports, 20-year-old Jason Lamar Harris and 16-year-old Amber Rose Riley stabbed 22-year-old Terry Ray Taylor to death in April 2003. Reportedly, the pair confessed to planning for months in advance, as Harris wanted to know what it would feel like to kill someone while Riley wanted to see a corpse. But how does Slipknot figure into this appalling event? Well, according to the authorities, the pair listened to the band's music before and after the crime, while also singing a controversial lyric out of Slipknot's Disaster Piece, which is off 2001's Iowa album, as they enacted the gruesome crime. Ultimately, Harris received a 50 years to life sentence for his role in the crime, while Riley was sentenced to 26 years to life. When someone explores the real meanings behind Slipknot songs, they discover the lyrics are deeper than what's on the surface level. From tracks discussing the band's complicated relationship with the music industry to even trying to inspire people to be better, Slipknot tackles a multitude of topics in their music. While it's common for fans to tattoo lyrics on their bodies or find other creative purposes for them, someone decided to leave behind the lyrics for the Slipknot song Surfacing off their 1999 self-titled album at a gravesite that had been robbed. For those who haven't heard the song before, Surfacing is a brutal rager that serves as a metaphorical middle finger to the world. According to Metal Underground, Justin Manning's gravesite was robbed in August 2006. The 17-year-old Manning died after an automobile accident, and an urn with his ashes was buried at the Bonner Springs Cemetery in Kansas. The cemetery sexton, Kenneth Brooks, disclosed that Manning's urn was stolen, while authorities discovered a note in the vicinity that featured the lyrics of Slipknot's Surfacing. According to Brooks, there had been prior issues at this gravesite. Manning's mother, Angela Bickham, didn't want to speculate that it was her son's friends behind the incident. However, there was confirmation of an incident that took place at the funeral where Manning's friends wanted to bury hats and CDs along with his urn in his grave. Reportedly, this caused a ruckus on the day. Slipknot experienced a PR nightmare in South Africa in 2008 after a horrendous crime sent shockwaves throughout the country. In Krugersdorp, Johannesburg, 18-year-old Morne Harmsa walked into his school, Nick Diedrich's Technical High School, armed with a sword and proceeded to kill 16-year-old Jacques Pretorius and injure 3 more people. What caught attention, though, were reports that Harmsa wore a Slipknot-inspired mask during the attacks. In addition, there were reports that Harmsa was a big fan of Slipknot's music and heavy metal as a whole. Due to these factors, Slipknot drew the ire of several groups, with some believing that the band should be held responsible for its perceived negative influence on the younger generation. In a later interview, Taylor addressed the incident, expressing concern about what happened, but also categorically denying the band provides any kind of message that encourages people to harm others. In 2009, Harmster received a 20-year prison sentence for his crime. He was paroled in 2022. Family feuds aren't unusual. Sometimes relatives clash over the most trivial of matters. In the case of Slipknot guitarist Mick Thompson and his brother Andrew, their argument went way too far in March 2015. According to the Des Moines Register, the inebriated brothers started quibbling in the early hours of the morning. Their conflict soon moved from inside to outside of the house. Police officers were dispatched to the scene after the incident turned violent and a knife fight broke out, which ultimately resulted in Mick being stabbed in the back of the head. Both brothers suffered injuries in the melee and were taken to the hospital in separate ambulances. However, none of their wounds were deemed to be life-threatening and they both recovered. The police investigation found Mick and Andrew to be equally at fault for the incident and slapped them with charges of disorderly conduct by fighting. Neither brother chose to lay charges against the other, though.
Joey's the best drummer in the world. Hands down.
Joey Jordison wrote his name into music legend thanks to Slipknot. The musician established himself as one of the best drummers in heavy metal history as his mastery of the double bass pedal inspired a generation. He also remained one of the most popular members of Slipknot, so it came as an absolute shock when the news broke that he was gone from the band in 2013. Slipknot's statement suggested a mutual parting of ways, while Jordison emphasized that it wasn't his decision and the whole ordeal caught him off guard. In a later interview with Metal Hammer, Jordison revealed that he'd been fired from Slipknot via email. He explained how it had blindsided him since there had been no meeting or conversation with anyone in the group or the representatives. On his last tour with the band, Jordison had experienced several physical issues that impacted his legs. Only later did he discover that he had transverse myelitis, which is a neurological condition that causes inflammation of the spinal cord, according to Mayo Clinic. Jordison explained, "They got confused about my health issues, and obviously even I didn't know what it was at first. They thought I was up on drugs, which I wasn't at all." What upset Jordison the most was how his firing was handled, especially after all they had been through together. He said, "The way they did it was f***ing cowardly." Disagreements between band members happen all the time. In some cases, they end up being too big for everyone to move past, and someone departs from the group. In Slipknot's case, however, the simmering animosity between Corey Taylor and Sid Wilson boiled over and resulted in them sorting out their issues with fists. In 2022, during an appearance at Monster Mania Con, Taylor opened up about a tumultuous period between him and Wilson in 2016. He explained that the pair was butting heads at the time, though he couldn't explain the specific reason for it. It reached the point where one of them would leave the room if the other entered. The built-up tension would come to a head during a meet and greet with Slipknot fans in Sweden. As Taylor explained, a fan had given him a comic book when Wilson appeared and knocked it out of his hand. Taylor exploded in fury and a fistfight ensued. He said, "That turned into us turning on each other and going at each other hard to the point where the band had to pull us apart. He was saying he was going to go home and leave the tour. I wasn't going to apologize. It was bad, man." According to Taylor, he and Wilson mended fences when Wilson was the first person from the band to reach out to him after his spinal surgery, and they both apologized to each other. Aside from Joey Jordison, percussionist Chris Fenn's departure from Slipknot was the other one that caught everyone by surprise. After all, he had been a part of the act from 1998 until 2019. The split certainly did not happen on the best of terms, as Fenn filed a lawsuit against the band thereafter. Fenn's suit claimed that Slipknot, specifically mentioning Sean Cran and Corey Taylor by name, purposely misled him by setting up various other companies for the group without informing him about it. Feeling deceived and wanting his share of what he believed was his, Fenn demanded a full accounting report and breakdown of the band's finances from the start until 2019. In a now-deleted post on Slipknot's website, the band claimed Fenn's accusations were false and insisted that he knew why he was terminated from the outfit in the first place. Taylor also replied to a comment on X to say he was wrongfully accused and it hurt to have fans believe he stole from a bandmate. Fenn's lawsuit against his former group was withdrawn in 2020.
Joey Jordison, the founding drummer of the American heavy metal band Slipknot, has died at the age of 46.
In 2021, news of the devastating death of Slipknot drummer Joey Jordison spread through the music community. For fans, Jordison's passing stung that little bit extra since he hadn't received the opportunity to rejoin the band since his firing in 2013. Now, the reunion would never happen. In 2022, Corey Taylor revealed to NME that Slipknot hadn't met up with Jordison after his firing. However, several members had been in contact with him over the years. Taylor claimed that he and Jordison resolved their differences before the latter's death, calling the relationship strained but civil. In 2024, Jordison's estate filed a lawsuit against Slipknot for allegedly profiting off the drummer's name and death. According to the lawsuit, Sean Crahan and Taylor were in possession of items belonging to Jordison, which they had agreed, in writing, to return to him after his dismissal from the band. Reportedly, Crahan and Taylor withheld information about other items in their possession and used them in a mobile museum. In addition, the lawsuit claimed Crahan and Taylor lied about checking in on Jordison's family after his death, accusing them of peddling this false narrative to further their own album sales, and saying they never cared about Jordison. Slipknot's lawyers denied all claims made by Jordison's estate and asked for the lawsuit to be dismissed entirely.